Hey everybody, it's Kate, the West Coast Paper Crafter. It is August 19th, Monday, 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and I am coming to you live from my kitchen table in East Souk, Vancouver Island, Canada. So tonight I am using something old and something new to show you a easy and fun card design that I came up with last night. So I'm just going to flip the camera around and we will get started. All right, so I'm just going to adjust so you can see my workstation. I'm going to move my mat up a little bit. And then I just got to bring up or refresh my laptop so I can see my hands and make sure that you can see them too. All right, so I am using something brand new out of the September to December mini catalog that will be available starting in September. If you don't have a copy of this catalog and you're local to me, let me know because I can certainly get you one. Hey Karen, how's it going? And out of this catalog, I am going to use the More Than Autumn bundle. So I've got the stamp set and I have got the matching dies. And I'm also using a new embossing folder called Forever Plaid that's in the new mini catalog. So these are the new things that I'll be using tonight to make our project. Okay, so to start out, I've cut a card base out of Pecan Pie, and this is just 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored and folded at 4.25 on the 8.5-inch side. Then I've got a piece of basic beige. This is 5.25 by 4. This is for the inside of the card. And this is a piece of Crumb Cake, and that is 5.5 by 2.75. And I've gone ahead and embossed this with the Forever Plaid embossing folder. Just going to adjust my camera just a tiny bit because I've got a little bit of a shadow. There we go, that's better. All right, then I went ahead and I cut out 3 dies with the Perennial Postage dies, and I cut these out of Pecan Pie. If you don't have this die, you can just cut these to 2 3/8 by 1.5. So I got 3 of those. And then this is another piece of basic beige that's 3 3/4 by 2 1/8. All right, so we're going to start with adding a little bit of ribbon to our embossed folder. I'm just going to use this polka dot trim. It's been around for a little bit in the online exclusives online. I'm pretty sure it came from the Latte Love Suite, and I think it goes pretty nicely with the colors I'm using tonight. So I'm just going to add a little bit of tear and tape right down the middle of this polka dot trim. And I'm going to stick this to the front of my embossed cardstock. So I'm just pushing that tear and tape so it sticks to the trim, and then I'm going to pull off one edge. Oh, it's not quite sticking. I have to push it down a little bit harder, I think, just to get that to stick. Let's try this end. There we go. All right, so if you can see that, I've got the tear and tape on just the back side of this trim, and I am going to stick that down almost in the middle, just a little bit off. And then I'm going to use a little bit more tear and tape to secure the ribbon to the back side of my cardstock. Now this is pretty thick trim, so I'm not going to glue this layer onto the card base. I'm going to pop it up. Hey Phyllis, thanks for tuning in from Tennessee. Hello Sherry, glad to see you caught the live today. All right, so I love to use my Take Your Pick tool just to pull the backings off my tear and tape. I typically use tear and tape as an alternative for adhesive. I like it better than stamp and seal, only because I kind of struggle sometimes getting my stamp and seal to dispense some tape. I don't know if anybody has that problem, but that seems to be my issue with stamp and seal. So what I'm going to do with this layer is I'm going to attach that to the side of the card front. I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch border. And I'm going to pop that up with some dimensionals. But before I do that, I think I just want to add a few more layers before I commit to sticking that down on the card front. So this piece of basic beige, I'm going to stamp a random pattern using the little pumpkin and the little heart from the More Than Autumn stamp set. Hello, Donna. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, Brenda. Oh, I don't need tear and tape. What am I doing? All right. So I'm going to stamp a random pattern. I'm going to start with my little pumpkins, and then I'll do the hearts. Okay. So when I do a random pattern, I just like to start diagonally from one corner, and I just stamp down the line, and then I'm going to grab a different color of ink. This one is Crumb Cake, and I'm going to stamp along the sides of the pumpkin just with this little heart stamp. And I typically kind of go back and forth when I want to do a random pattern. So it's definitely not perfect, but it's not meant to be. And then I'm just going to add some more pumpkins to either side of these hearts. And then I'll finish it off with a few more hearts, and this will be perfect. I'm going to add just the tiniest bit of pumpkin in that corner. Okay, I don't need, oh, I do need my little pumpkin, but I do need this heart one more time. Or maybe a couple more times. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to wipe some of this ink out of my way so I don't get it everywhere in all the places I don't want it to go. And then before I close up my ink pads, I'm going to stamp a little pumpkin on the inside layer. And while I have my ink pad out, I'm going to stamp a little sentiment. It's "Except maybe you," and it doesn't make sense right now, but when this card is together, all put together, this sentiment is going to make a lot more sense. All right, so I just stamped the pumpkin and the sentiment in pumpkin pie, and I don't need my ink anymore, so I'll get that out of the way. All right, now I need my paper trimmer. And this piece of basic beige that I've stamped the random pattern in, I'm going to cut it twice to make 3 equal pieces. So each cut is going to be 1 1/4, because this is 3 3/4 long. So if I cut it in 1 1/4 twice, then I will have 3 equal pieces, as long as I measure and cut correctly. All right, so they are all the same size, just like that. And I'm going to keep them in order, just because I like the pattern to match up. So we can get the paper trimmer out of the way. So now all I want to do is glue these little pieces right in the middle of my pecan pie die cut. And this is just going to frame my little stamped pattern. And if you don't have the perennial dies to cut out this shape, then just cut your cardstock a little bit bigger than the basic beige by maybe 1/4 of an inch. Or cut them 2 3/8 by 1 1/2 because that is the dimensions of these die cuts. All right, almost done. So I'm just gluing these right into the middle. It almost makes it look like a postage stamp. All right. So once I have these glued on, I am going to pop them up, just going down my paper. But now I have to make sure I've got them the right way. Let's see, how did I have that? Yes, I think maybe it's, now I got them all mixed up. Oh, here we go. This is the bottom. No. This one is the bottom. No, I definitely messed them up. It doesn't really matter. No one will know the difference. So I'm just going to add some dimensionals. So you could, if you wanted, glue these, but because this trim is a little bit thick, it doesn't work so well. So I find dimensionals do a better job for that. So I'm just going to add some dimensionals on the back. And I want to make sure that I don't put any right in the middle because I don't want dimensionals on the trim. So I'm just going to do 2 on each side, and I'm going to leave space in the middle. You could probably get away with just 1 dimensional on each side, but I like to use a lot of dimensionals. All right. Oh, I got it. I got it figured out. So now I just want to add these evenly spaced on this embossed layer. So I find it easier to start at the bottom and the top and then just stick the middle piece in. So if I kind of just arrange them so there's, oh, maybe it's 1/4 of an inch border from the bottom, top, and then each middle piece, then they should fit together perfectly. Now, if I'm slightly off, very likely the only person who's going to notice is me. All right. I'm adding to my collection of dimensional backings everywhere. I get them in all the places. I find them in my mudroom, my bedroom, my lunch bag, my work bag, my laundry bag, everywhere. All right, so I'm just putting down this 3rd layer. And there we go. It looks like so. If you hear any tippy tapping, that's my dog. He's just coming inside. All right, so there's one more thing I want to do before I commit to gluing this down. And I've gone ahead, well, maybe I'll just show you. I think we have time. So in the dies for the More Than Autumn dies, there is, oops, a whole bunch of pieces that cut out all sorts of the stamps. So I've got dies that match the coffee cup, the whipped cream, the pie, the donut, all these little pieces in here, this little pumpkin, apple, heart, gingerbread man, even the marshmallows you can punch out. But you can also cut out some of the sentiments, which I think is so clever. So you don't have to necessarily do all stamping. So for example, I've gone ahead and I've cut out in pumpkin pie this sentiment pumpkin, and then I did spice, and there's another sentiment that says nothing's better than. So instead of stamping the sentiment, I just went ahead and I die cut them out, and I stuck a little bit of the adhesive backing on the back side of my cardstock before I did that, so I could make the sentiments little stickers. And it just makes things a little bit easier, because sometimes when you're trying to glue these like delicate sentiments on your cards, it's a little bit more challenging to not make a mess. So the adhesive sheets make short work of that, and basically turn your die cut into a sticker, and it's just simple. So on this first square, at an angle, I'm going to add nothing's better than. And I know it's a little bit too long to fit across that layer, so I'm just going to put it at an angle. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this pumpkin sentiment. So I'm just pulling off my adhesive backing, and I'm going to add pumpkin right across. So when you have I guess a fragile little sentiment like this, they're pretty easy to manipulate. So if you take your time, you can adjust the letters exactly where you want them to lay. All right. And then the last little bit is the word spice. And since everything else is slightly angled, I'll do the same for this. All right. Okay, so that is ready. I am going to glue this. Actually, I'm going to pop it up because of this polka dot trim. It's too thick, so I'm just going to add some more dimensionals. So when I add extra dimensionals to a card, I'm not too sure if it will take regular postage when I mail it, or if it'll be considered oversized. So I don't have one of those mail slots to gauge. So I usually just, if I'm going to mail a card that's extra thick, I'll just swing by my post office and make sure I've got the right postage on it, because I do not want it to get sent back to me. All right, now this, I'm going to add right to the side of the card with about a 1/2 inch of a border. Oops, maybe a little bit less, because I do have something to add to the side of the card. All right, that looks pretty good. So this is almost done, the card front. Where's my envelope? So what I did was I pre-stamped the little coffee cups, and I die cut them out. I stamped little pumpkins for pumpkin spice latte, and then I colored in my pumpkin with the dark pumpkin pie blend, and the coffee sleeve I just did in the light peach pie. So these I'm going to add on the side of the card, just slightly angled, since everything on this card happens to be angled, like so. All right, so I want the cups to be at the same height as everything else, so I'm going to grab some dimensionals. And this one I'm going to do just angled to the right, so I'm going to put the dimensionals on the left side. One more. And then this top edge of the cup, if I want to, I can add just a tiny little drop of glue. And then I'm going to stick that down so part of that coffee cup touches this layer, and it's going to glue right on. All right, now I'll do the same thing. I'm going to slide my mug just under that part of the pumpkin, the little pea there that's overhanging a bit. And I'll give that a little bit of support. So I'm going to put my dimensionals on this side. Two should be good. I don't think I need three. I might be a little excessive. Hey Bonnie, thanks for tuning in. You're also from Kansas? Okay. Okay, now one more card, and I'm just going to kind of tilt it in the opposite direction of these other two. Actually, I might want to move this one down just a tiny bit if I can adjust it without causing too much damage. So usually if I have to pull something off, I bend my little die cut piece, but if I'm gentle enough, you can barely tell that I've adjusted it. There, that's better. All right, last mug, I'm just going to throw on just like that. So dimensionals will be on this side of the cup again. And then I'll put just a tiny little drop of glue again on this edge of the coffee cup. And that way it's going to stick onto this little popped up layer. All right, almost done. So these are all the new things that I've used for this card. And what I was going to use that's old are my iridescent pastel gems. So these are retired. I have got, I'm sure like most of us crafters, a ton of retired things that really do need to be used up. So I'm on a mission to use up as much of my retired gems and paper that I can. So typically I like to add 3 gems. I like an odd number, but because I'm on a mission, I'm actually going to be a little bit heavy on my bling today. Karen, I think you'll like that. And I'm going to add 5, just along the edge of my coffee cups. Okay, I'll get that out of the way. So this is the front of our card. Pretty cute, I like it. If I recreate this card, the only thing I'll do different is I will choose a darker, more contrasting color for the sentiment. The pumpkin pie is blending in a little bit with my other oranges. So that's the one thing I'll change when I redo this one. All right, last thing it needs is just my sentiment piece. And this card is done. There's lots of fun things that are coming out in the new mini catalog. And next week, I will crack out something else that came in my pre-order, and we'll play with that too. It's a pretty fun catalog. If you're a demonstrator and you've already had a look at what's coming, then let me know what you think. It might be my favorite mini catalog yet. All right, so here is our Nothing's Better Than Pumpkin Spice card, except maybe you. So if you are a pumpkin spice latte lover, let me know. I don't hate pumpkin spice, but I don't go crazy over it. But I do think that the stamp set is really cute, and I do also have some friends who really do love their pumpkin spice lattes. So I already know who's going to get this card. All right, so this was the first sample that I made. Same concept, right? I just did the layout a little bit differently and I added some whipped cream with some sprinkles to my latte. So that is it. The only thing I wanted to share with everybody is if you are local and live in the southern part of the island, or even if you don't mind traveling, mark your calendars for September 21st because Tanya, the Canadian Stamper, and I will be hosting another crafty social with some of the new products from the mini catalog. So we have a date set. It is from 12 until noon. There will be some crafting, some giveaways, some new products that are going to come along with your registration, as well as, of course, some snacks, because that's kind of my favorite thing about getting together, socializing and snacking. All right, I'm going to flip this camera around. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in live tonight. If you're catching me on a replay, thanks for watching. Say hello, tell me where you're from. And if you try out this type of card design, then throw a picture in the comments because I love to see what you make. So everybody have a really good night and thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I'll see you next Monday.